Ichibē Hyōsube. Ichibē Hyōsube, Hyōsube Ichibē, is the leader of the Zero Division, Zarabantai Raida, holding the title, monk who calls the real name, Manako Asho, viz., High Priest. Ichibē was given the title, monk who calls the real name, by the Soul King. Ichibē was the person who first chose the names for everything in Soul Society, including Zanpakuto, Shiraide, and Bankai. At some point in the past, Ichibē became the first Shinigami whose Zanpakuto gained an evolved form, which was known as Shinuchi. Appearance. Ichibē is a large and broad individual with a bald head, red eyes, bushy eyebrows and a long black beard. He wears the standard Shinigami uniform beneath a white, long-sleeved haori decorated with the Royal Guard's emblem. The top of his uniform is open enough to expose his hairy chest. He also wears a large set of red prayer beads around his neck and a pair of single-toothed Tengu Geta. Personality. Ichibē is an authoritative Shinigami who remains focused on the mission at hand. He speaks in a loud and upfront manner, and usually has an upbeat expression on his face. However, in battle, he is ruthless and somewhat patronizing, though he constantly smiles throughout his fights. Yhwach notes that he becomes much happier when he has resolved to kill someone. He displays a patronizing kindness toward his opponents, such as when he cut Yhwach's physical and spiritual power in half in order to avoid tarnishing the reputation of the Quincy by defeating him at full power. Powers and abilities. True name manipulation. Ichibē can manipulate the true names, the metaphysical representations of, among other things, sentient beings, which grants him power over those he targets with his power. Name identification. Ichibē has the innate ability to determine the true name of all things. He came up with the name Zanpakuto and the release names Shiraide and Bankai, and he was the first one to choose all the names of all things in Soul Society. Due to this unique skill, Ichibē also knows the names of every Zanpakuto from the time they are handed to a Shinigami as a Sachi created by Otsunomiya. Name curse. Due to its importance, Ichibē's name carries a curse upon it. Those who are unworthy to speak it will lose their voices if they do so. Self-reconstitution. If his body is destroyed, Ichibē can completely restore it to its former state and reconstruct every piece of his body that was out of place. He achieves this by stealing a bit of power from someone that says his name to initiate the process. In order to prompt this, he can mentally speak to the individuals around him and ask them to do so. Spirit appendage manifestation. Ichibē can manifest giant representations of his hands and feet in the air. These limbs copy his movements and possess greater strength in proportion to their greater size. Senritsu Tensho, heavenly passing palm of the thousand ri. Ichibē manifests a large hand to push his opponent away with extreme force. According to him, it will send his opponent flying 1,000 ri away. Wisdom. As a current commander of the Royal Guard with vast knowledge, understanding, common sense and insight from centuries of service, Ichibē possesses great experience and instincts as a leader, and always acts with optimum judgment of the situation. Combining this with his innate ability to see the true nature of his opponent and his diverse skill set, Ichibē is also a very adaptable strategist. His wisdom and common sense have been recognized by the Wandenrake as being potent enough to make him one of the special war powers of Soul Society. Expert swordsman. Ichibē possesses considerable skill in Zenjutsu, clashing evenly with Yhwach during their battle. Shuinpa master. Ichibē is highly proficient in Shuinpa, appearing next to Yhwach almost immediately after propelling him 1,000 ri away with Senritsu Tensho. He effortlessly sidestepped a multitude of Heilig fire fired by Yhwach's Sankt Bogen. Kido master. Ichibē possesses considerable skill in Kido, using mid-level spells to great effect by simply stating the name without incantation, number, or type. Ichibē has used a secret Hado spell that was strong enough to shatter the dome formed by Yhwach's blood Vene Anhaben, further demonstrating his skill. Immeasurable spiritual power. As a captain-class combatant and commander of the Royal Guard, Ichibē has a colossal amount of spiritual power. Ichibē's power is of such a degree that he was able to fight evenly with Yhwach, who possesses vast Ryoryoku himself, with just his sealed Zanpakuto and later Shiraide. With his Bankai, Shirafude Kamanji, Ichibē would have been able to permanently neutralize the Quincy King if the latter had not activated the Almighty. Enhanced strength. Ichibē possesses a large amount of physical strength. After pushing Yhwach a large distance away from Soul King Palace with Senritsu Tensho, Ichibē sent him flying the same distance back to the palace with a single slash from his brush. He crushed a rapier attack from Yhwach by merely clasping his hands around it, and reversed the absorbing effects of Yhwach's blood Vene Anhaben by flexing the muscles on the left side of his body, rupturing the blood vessels in Yhwach's face in the process. Enhanced endurance. Ichibē possesses a great tolerance for pain, when Yawatch pierced him with his rapier broadsword, Ichibē stood his ground despite considerable blood loss, shrugged off the pain, and kept fighting. Oken, as one of the royal guards, Hyōsube has the Oken imparted in his bones, which grants him the ability to travel into and out of the Soul King Palace, as well as grant permission to others simply by willing it. Zanpakuto. Ichimonji, straight line, viz., one written character. Its sealed form takes the form of a large calligraphy brush which Ichibē uses to write calligraphic characters. Calligraphy. Ichibē is an accomplished calligrapher, allowing him to draw characters that carry the power of their meaning. Conceal, viz., hidden, hides large physical objects, such as the entirety of the Soul King Palace, from view. Seal, creates a boundary that cannot be passed. Name severing. When used as a weapon, this brush does not cut flesh, but instead names. For example, if Ichibē lands a blow on his opponent's arm, he can reduce the physical capabilities of that arm by half if he cuts its name in half to AR. Shirkai, its release command is blacken, kurameo, viz., paint it black. Upon release, the brush transforms into a form of a somewhat short glaive, with the top portion taking the form of a short, single-edged blade reminiscent of a tip of a chikudo, attached to the long brush handle. Additionally, a large halo of black ink appears in the air behind Ichibē. Shirkai special ability. Whenever Ichibē swings Ichimonji, its blade releases ink. Anything that this ink covers loses its name, and thus its powers. Its power is the power of black. Every time Ichibē releases Ichimonji, all of the color black from all beings, dead or alive, becomes his power. Power absorption immunity. The power summoned by Ichimonji can be stolen, but it cannot be used by the assailant or used against Ichibē because he controls all of the color black in the universe. As such, it is simply restored to him, proven when Yawatch's Sanct Altar fails to work against him. Fuden Taisatsuryo. Slaughterous mausoleum of halted reincarnation. Ichibē brings forth a massive amount of blackness from his surroundings and fills a cup with it before drinking from the cup. After chanting an incantation, Ichibē creates a large mausoleum with a fence in front on top of shattered gravestones out of the blackness. This technique takes away all of the darkness in his opponent, including their flesh, blood, and bones, until nothing is left. Their destruction is so absolute that they will not even reincarnate. Shinuchi, Shirafude Ichimonji, white brush straight line, viz., white brush one written character. Uniquely, Ichibē activates his Bankai by calling out Shinuchi, true strike, viz., true blade, instead of Bankai, as Ichimonji was the first Zanpakuto to take on an evolved form long before the term Bankai existed. Upon activation, the blade of Ichibē's brush turns white and becomes a long, thick thread that coils in the air around him. Shinuchi special ability. With Shirafude Ichimonji, Ichibē can give and change the name of targets who have been struck by the ink of Ichimonji by writing kanji on their body. Doing so gives his target the properties and powers of the name granted. For example, by changing their name to Black Ant, Kurori, his opponent would be as weak and powerless as an ant.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.